Good morning. Just before I do the opening words, I just want to say today is the 19th anniversary of the first time I ever spoke here at the Unitarian Church. It was Renaissance Fair Day of 2000, and I had been asked to talk about the connection. It was our Art and Soul Sunday, and I was asked to talk about the connection between my spirit and my art, and that was an awesome opportunity. So it's good remembrance. 20 years ago. Okay. This is a poem by one of our favorites, Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? The grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't exactly know what a prayer is, but I do know how to pay attention. How to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? You may see a theme emerging here. The UUA has decided that this is the month of the curiosity is the theme, and so when folks asked me a couple of weeks ago if I could do a service because the Reverend Teresa would be gone, etc. Anyway, this was one of the suggestions, so it's been kind of fun to unwind this a little bit. But yeah, curiosity, journeys, asking questions. So I'm going to read from Walt Whitman, Song of the Open Road. Afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me, the long brown path before me, leading wherever I choose. From this hour, freedom. From this hour, I ordain myself loosed of the limits of and imaginary lines, going where I wish, my own master, total and absolute, listening to others, and considering well what they say, pausing, searching, receiving, contemplating, divesting myself of the holds and ideas that would hold me. Life is a journey to make sense of the world and our place in it. As babies and then as young children, seeing everything as new, we are driven by natural curiosity to grasp and grab, touch, taste, investigate, and later to make meaning of what we've found. When I was about 10 years old, we lived in a house along a shallow creek bed. It would flood about once a year in the early spring, but otherwise it would be dry most of the time. In our Iowa town, we called it the dry run. When we were out of school during the summer, we would spend lots of our days exploring the dry run, heading out early in the day, afoot and lighthearted like Walt Whitman, to trek along that dry creek bed scouting for treasures. We would walk for hours, it seemed, with our eyes pretty much glued to the ground like archaeologists. I imagined that because I was fascinated by articles and pictures I'd see in the National Geographic magazine. And we'd find old bottles and bits, stray buttons, shiny metal valuables, and pointed chunks of rock that we were convinced were ancient arrowheads. When we'd get home, we'd pore over the stuff, wondering how old it might be, where it came from, how it got there in the dry run, and imagining the stories it held. There were other times when we'd stay with our grandmas in Decorah, and we'd go up to this park on a big hill that overlooked the Iowa River, where there were stone walkways and views all along the edge of the cliffs there. A particularly woodsy path that led into a more brushy area and had a couple of rickety wooden bridges on it was one we really liked to dare to explore. The sign said it was called the Scenic Walk, and our parents told us not to go on it. Now, don't go on the Scenic Walk, they'd say, because it's dangerous. Of course, we would venture out on it, though never too far because their warning did scare us. I think I was about 14 when I finally found out that the word scenic actually didn't mean dangerous. Anyway, these types of explorations are what come to my mind when I jog my memory about times that I've been curious. You might reach back in some of your times when you were young and think about your curious times and what you did. As children, we aren't hindered yet by responsibilities or social pressures or even much knowledge of what could be dangerous. So our curiosity is at its peak when we're very young. When we become teenagers, we're still curious, but the focus of our curiosity turns more toward our awareness of, awakening awareness of sex, alcohol, driving, becoming independent, and just testing boundaries in general. High school can really turn into a challenge, feeling like you have to learn stuff you're not interested in, becoming hyper aware of what others think of you and how you fit in or how you don't fit in. Then you just want to become an adult so you can make your own decisions and go your own way. The natural curiosity of youth gets relegated to the back seat as we become driven as adults by the increasing demands of responsibility, decision-making, work, and making ends meet. It's easy to become habituated, complacent, exhausted, even world-weary, these days especially, unless we make intentional efforts to change things or at least shake them up a bit. Back in the mid-'80s, I was working as a librarian at the University of Idaho, and I decided to take a ceramics class, thinking I could learn to make some plates for the table, just spruce things up a bit. First, I learned how to pinch out cups and bowls and other little pinch pots, and then I learned how to throw pots on the wheel. That's what everybody wants to learn, right? It was a lot harder than I thought, and I went on to learn about hand building, more challenging pieces, forming and melding clay coils and slabs together into larger shapes and figures. I spent more and more time in my evenings and weekends in the UI clay studio. Working with clay was messy, and I was dirty more often than I was clean, and I loved it, and it made me feel like a child again. Making art enabled me to recover that natural curiosity I had lost in the years I'd spent becoming a responsible, rather lackluster adult. You begin to look at things in new ways, and you are once again given permission to ask questions. Lots of questions, even silly questions. Like, what if I turn this upside down? Or what if I turn it inside out? Or put a cherry on it? What if I make it really big or super small? Or what if I use paint instead of clay? Or make this two-dimensional instead of three-dimensional? Or sculpture it? Or what if I make it so you could sit on it? Or walk inside it? Or have it surround you? You see the possibilities just open up and keep blossoming. Working in art also gave me a lens then that I took out into the world and used to look at things really in a new way. I could apply my new questioning techniques to my everyday life instead of taking things like situations and relationships or even issues unfolding around me at face value. I could ask myself, well, what if I looked at this situation from another angle? What if I made it more important or less important or bigger or smaller? What if this difficult issue just needs some brightening up, some light shining on it? Or maybe this difficult person just needed me to imagine a cherry on top of his head so I could relate to him better. What if I could just be like Alice in Wonderland and make this tricky situation just seem like an adventure to explore? Maybe if I just kept asking questions, a resolution would come. Questions, you know. You've heard the jokes about Unitarian Universalism, right? One of them is that our symbol is a question mark. Or the other one is about us going door to door asking, what do you believe? Instead of proselytizing. We are sometimes misunderstood or not taken seriously by people who pass our denomination off as just a free-for-all where you can believe anything at all. Nothing could be further from the truth. We're probably the most progressive denomination to come out of the Protestant Reformation. And it's because we grew to value questions instead of shutting them down. We're so progressive that we have surpassed the need to recite a dead creed or to hold tightly to a one-book container of truths or to live our faith in a single-wide trailer of dogma. We've put our faith in questions. We've put our faith in questions. We're a people of curiosity. We value direct, personal, transformative experience, which is why I could be up here today. We praise mystery and wonder and wisdom from many religions and spiritual traditions. Poetry is often our scripture, and art, all kinds of art, lifts our spirits. We're a curious faith. We want to know what you believe and how you came to your beliefs. We affirm and encourage each other's spiritual searches and growth. We want to hear from each other and share our experiences and perspectives. We want to become children again. We want to refresh that curiosity of wanting to know and wanting to find out. We want to live into the questions that keep arising rather than turning away. Everything is a teaching and a chance to learn and practice. So, this is short and sweet today. Let us go forth, remembering to pay attention, remembering to ask questions of each other that will help us understand who we are and what our place is in this world. And let us live into our calling as people of curiosity. So be it, and blessed be.